So I'm the minister, and DT's coming to me because he's having relationship problems.
Chozen is driving me crazy. About the Dharma. Yeah, she just goes on, and she, she's always asking me how I am, and I never know what to say. It's really frustrating.
You know, I've had the same kind of problem in my relationship with her.
Really?
Yes, it's always talking about the Dharma. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. She's like always going on about stuff. And then she goes, "How was your day?" I don't know what to say. I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep. And no, we can't go to sleep. How was your day? And
yeah, it's been going on for years in my relationship, and I just don't know what to do about it. It's really a problem. So you see how the relationship shifted there from professional, and I'm helping him, to something I'm asking for help from him. And if Chozen does this better than you do, TP, I'm sorry. But he can lean over and kind of touch me and say, "Well, gosh, is there a way I can help you with this?" And then suddenly the whole the dynamic has shifted, and now my needs are being met instead of his. So that's what this continuum means.
I was trying to play the awkward confused.
So that's a physical demonstration of what this means. That when you're a professional, and all of you are professionals, know that you've got to stay on this side or else you're going to get into trouble. And for example, women lawyers often fall in love with their clients. It's just like a hazard of the profession. There was one woman, brilliant woman lawyer, about 10 years ago, fell in love with her criminal client, married him and went down. He was a lifer and ended up with a life sentence, and she went down to Salem to live outside the prison walls so she could visit him once in a while. Of course, her career was destroyed. I mean, she could never be a lawyer again because she crossed way over here. So it's not just men that do this, men and women do this too. So we have to be aware of this. And this is our maximum mutual intimacy over here, where everybody's needs are getting met and there's a lot of flexibility, and this is our maximum professional effectiveness. Now, what's really important, this doesn't, can you go back one slide? It was on the bottom of that slide. So down here it says, note, ministerial relationships or therapeutic relationships and those of other helping professions should include warmth, caring, concern, and sensitivity. So that should be included in a professional relationship. Note, under personal, many personal relationships include coldness, indifference, insensitivity, remoteness, and even cruelty. So this is, again, a nuanced issue. There can be warmth in a professionally maintained relationship which has really good boundaries. And there can be coldness in a personal relationship. Is that helpful? Let me say another thing that might be helpful. There can be intimacy in a professional-client relationship without it having to be mutual intimacy. So, for example, there can be physical intimacy. If I'm doing a physical exam on somebody, I'm touching their body in a very intimate way. Very intimate. If I do exams of breast and genitalia or prostate exams, I mean, that is really intimate. But it isn't mutual intimacy, right? There's a professional framework and boundary that holds that person's safety, even though there's a physically intimate experience going on. The same in the therapeutic relationship. So a therapy session can be emotionally very intimate, but the professional isn't extending out their tentacles to get their emotional needs met by the client. So that's a very important distinction. Right? So appropriate boundaries can create the very intimacy you need in a therapy-client relationship or a ministerial relationship. Okay. Dynamics. So how does this happen? We have to know how this happens if we're going to prevent it. And the classic setup is the clergy or the therapist or the lawyer, whatever professional is getting in trouble, becomes isolated, becomes lonely, their intimacy needs aren't being met, so they start reaching out inappropriately. They've been put on a pedestal. So they're way up there, and people think that they're just God and they can do no wrong. So once they begin to cross boundaries, people get confused because, well, the minister said this relationship was sanctioned by God. The minister should know. It's a very common line that's used, by the way, in clergy misconduct. In Buddhism, the version would be, we've been together in past lives. Now, what Marie Fortune says is if the pizza delivery man came to your door and gave you the pizza and said, we've been together in past lives, let's have sex, we would probably believe. But somehow, in the ministerial relationship, people believe this. They fall for it. All of us could fall for it.
We've had an abusive relationship in the past life.
Okay, power concentrated in one person. So everybody goes to that person with all their questions in life. Substance abuse as a way to try to deal with their own pain or lack of intimacy. Failure to hold the precepts. That was a very common problem in the 80s because of the way society was and the way we were interpreting the precepts. Lines of development. Well, this was very helpful. This is from Ken Wilber, and helped some people understand who were just really questioning how in the world could a spiritual person, or a quote enlightened person, get into trouble with ethics. So what Ken Wilber says is that there are a lot of lines of development. So there's the financial line of development where you can balance your checkbook, manage money skillfully, and stay solvent. Then there's, let's say, an artistic line of development where you're a good calligrapher on putting in the Zen context, or you do beautiful Sumi paintings. Or then there's a musical line of development where you chant beautifully. And then there's the social interactive line of development where you get along well with people. And you just like to talk to people and people like to be with you and you have good relationships with people, including your partner. And then there's the, let's say, a spiritual line of development. So you could have a big blowout opening in the spiritual line of development and be lousy in personal relationships, embezzle money, or not be able, let's say, not be able to balance your checkbook, or mismanage funds in your congregation or your sangha, and always sing out of key, and maybe not be athletic. So there's all these different lines, and just because you've had some kind of opening and you're charismatic, you have a charismatic ability, a charism they call it in the Catholic Church, to induce that same thing in other people, that doesn't mean your other lines of development, including your ethical line of development, are well developed. So there was a mistaken belief early on, and when Zen came to America, that all you had to do was get enlightened, everything else would be taken care of automatically. And that it was like magical thinking. So that's why we emphasize character work. The importance of character work and the importance of ethics, of the precepts. So this is like, in the traditional Buddhist teaching, the precepts is the third leg of the stool that holds up your spiritual practice. So the first leg is ethical behavior. Second leg is developing your samadhi, your ability to meditate and concentrate. And then the third leg is the wisdom, the prajna, that comes from that. So failure to hold the precepts, lines of development, and then no professional sanction. So this is one big disability because Zen came to America without any organizational structure. And the people who brought it were revolting against the bureaucracy in Japan, so they weren't particularly interested in recreating a bureaucracy here. And so we're having to create it from zero. So we're just now beginning to create professional organizations for Zen teachers, and setting up ethical standards and then policies and procedures for working with people who violate those standards. But it's been a long road, a long road to try to get to some ethical standards, because people would say, well, maybe the man under the bridge is more enlightened than I am, so he should be in this organization. And I'm like, oh, great. Can't even decide on membership, let alone ethics. So that was the first 5 years, was who would be a member and who would say who was a member. And then now we're working on the ethical conduct and policies and procedures parts of it. Okay, next slide. Why is it wrong for a priest or minister to be sexually involved with a student or a congregant? It's a violation of the role, of the professional role. Misuse of power and authority that comes with the role. If you take on, what I say to Zen teachers is if you take on the role, if you say, I am a Zen teacher, you have power, you have authority, and you have responsibility. It is taking advantage of vulnerability. So the analogy I use is, if I'm a doctor and a patient comes to me worried that they have a life-threatening illness, let's say cancer, and I do some tests and I say to them, here's your situation, here's what you got. It is life-threatening. It's a life or death situation. It's a question of life or death. But I know some tools here, some things that you can do, some medicine you can take, some exercises you can do, and so on, that can restore you to health and happiness. It will take away your suffering and bring you to happiness and contentment in life, equanimity in life. So I'm not going to do it for you, but I'm going to tell you how to do it, and here's how to do it. So if I did that as a physician, I have a responsibility not to come on to that person, not to ask them out for a date, not to kiss and hug them in the exam room when they're half naked, and so on. I mean, that's well known, and you can lose your license if you cross those boundaries. So the same thing applies to a spiritual teacher. People are coming to us with their deepest issues in life, which are issues of life and death. And we are saying, I have some tools, but I can't do it for you. I can guide you, I can give you the tools, I will support you, encourage you, prod you along the way, so that you can resolve these issues for yourself and come out of a condition of suffering into a condition of happiness and equanimity and good function, freedom, liberation in your life. So if I step across boundaries with the person who's in front of me, then I'm taking advantage of their vulnerability and I'm violating my obligation. There's an absence of meaningful consent. So in the case of rape, for example, it's considered that children under the age of 18 cannot give meaningful consent. What does that mean? That means they don't understand the consequences of sexual behavior. What does that mean? Well, let's say we have a retarded 30-year-old, developmentally delayed 30-year-old. How do we test, can they give meaningful consent? Somebody's having sex with them, their boyfriend. We have to find out, do they understand how to get pregnant, how you can get pregnant and how to prevent it? And do you understand how you get STDs and prevent that? And if they don't understand that, they cannot give meaningful consent. So in various professions, there are ways to look at meaningful consent. But when there is an imbalance of power and education and knowledge, there is automatically no meaningful consent. And it can derail a person's spiritual life. And this, to me, is the most devastating consequence of clergy misconduct.